4, welcome to the library and this final entry of Series 3 of Intro to the Realms. I am the recorder, and in this entry we will cover in brief the hidden powers that lie between that of Empress of the Gods Genevieve and Nodocare, her fellow gods, and that of the Nine Wings, creator and ruler of all. How, in that vast gulf of power and authority, 4 or 5, depending on how one wishes to count such things, entities exist, each with domination and control of a primal facet of reality. Today, we talk about the upper management of the gods of the realms, the Elder Gods. Perceptive patrons, regular visitors, and new guests of the library. Let us begin by noting that this will only be an introduction to these near omnipotent beings, and additional entries on their individual actions or history will come as interest and relevancy dictate. So, as always, do be sure to make your voice heard. Now let us begin. Above all, creator of the realms and beyond, the Nine Wings stands. His power absolute, his aims unknown, but his preference for Jam'mar and her people is both uncontested and unexplained. While he is considered an elder god and the greatest of them, the Nine Wings in reality is beyond such labels. Therefore, we shall look at those elders which fill the gulf between the Nine Wings and the most powerful of the mortal gods, of which there are 5. 5 beings of near unlimited power and authority, matchable only by their kin and bested only by the Nine Wings. Each has a domain of power that is primal, and thus vast in its reach and effects. 4 of them are in constant ebb and flow with one another, as they are opposed in their domains, philosophies, as well as how to go about seeing these ideas implemented. Of the 2 pairs that result, one set appears to be satisfied with letting the subtle ripples of plans, actions, and mortal life play out as proxy for their opposition, while the other pair has been far more pronounced in acting, and thus is better known to the few who can both obtain and retain knowledge of this sort. As a note, before we go too much further, knowledge of and about the Elder Gods has a habit of becoming lost and forgotten by those not deemed worthy of knowing such truths. Only the gods, the Anlar, and the dragons are immune to this effect, and thus can remember and actively contemplate or worship these beings. Mortals are at best only tangentially aware of the existence of these beings, knowing only there exists those to whom even the gods must give deference, and the Nine Wings is such a being. Whether or not there is one or many of these beings is a point of esoteric and academic debate among the eldest and most learned of scholars across the realms. To the vast majority of the realms, the gods serve the Nine Wings and protect, lead, and shepherd the mortal people of the realms as they grow and expand in his name. Returning to the Elder Gods themselves, we shall begin our look at the least active pair of the complementary yet opposed of these beings, Glenna, the elder goddess of good, and Ekron, who presides over evil. Being the most passive of the elder gods, there is consequently little information on them beyond inferences that they play their great game between themselves by having sown the idea and seeds of their philosophy deep in the hearts and minds of mortality long ago, and thus now just watch the results of their action play out across the ages. Beyond this, and the fact that they have never come into direct conflict with the gods, there is not an excess of information or history concerning Ekron and Glenna beyond the rumors of them being in fact spouses to one another. If true, it perhaps goes a long way to explain the lack of overt actions and enmity between the two. The positions of the two other elder gods, that of law and chaos, are far better known, as they have been far more directly involved in the affairs of the realms and her mortal peoples. In fact, the holders of both positions have changed in the post-reign history of the realms, and more than once in the case of the Throne of Chaos, which saw the ousting and eventual restoration of its original goddess, Charsis. Her counterpart, Lastro, the elder god of law, was dethroned in the later decades of the age preceding the modern age of stars, and according to unconfirmed reports, met his end somewhen on the plain of Temporsis, in direct combat with members of Her Majesty's divine court. Of the two, Charsis was the first to seemingly directly interfere with the mortal realm in an overt manner, for it was she who redirected the powers and the aims of the Dark Wa covens and cabals towards the eventual summoning and release of Vanson, and brought ruination to the realms thus. While she did so so subtly, she was eventually found out many years later by the very forces that would eventually oust, then restore her position. The mortal gods, led by Her Majesty Genevieve. How they managed this feat is best left unexplored for now, for it surely involved powers almost beyond understanding to mortal minds. However, the why is simple. First, the ousting was in response to the revelation that Charsis had not only been to blame for Vanson and thus the reign, but had been directly interfering with the mortal gods. Specifically, she had cursed the family sky child, those born of Damastus, the prophesied champion that brought Vanson low. This curse was one of subtle madness, desire for grandeur, and even greater feats of glory or heroism. And as it was so subtle and merely boosted the already present drive found in all of the mortal gods of the Sky Child line in large part, it went undetected for generations. Only with Verisar Sky Child and his dealings and multiple crossings with not only Charsis, but others among her kind, did the extent of the curse become apparent. For while ultimately Verisar can be said to have come out on top in his dealings with the elders, it came at great loss, cost, and still extant prices. Enraged at the offense, for Her Majesty is well known for considering her bloodline and all that are a part of it as under her protection and grace, plans were enacted to replace Charsis, the result of which saw new gods given spark, and the void known as Eddie raised to the position of Elder God of Chaos. Eventually, however, Eddie grew bored with the restrictions of his new position, and already having created wonders and powers for himself, subsequently moved things in such a way as to restore Charsis to her throne, while seeing peace between her and the mortal gods occur the same. A peace that holds to this day, it is said. Lastro, Elder God of Law, whose own actions included prompting the formation of the Dark Wa, the Wars of Feather and Scale, as well as the creation of the Scriptorum and empire they came to rule, only came to the fore as a response to the affront of mortals daring to come after the Elder Gods. However, his plans were set ages before they ever saw action, for Lastro, as the God of Law, was able to see the probability of various possibilities and plan accordingly. This meant that after his own ousting in the earliest days of the Age of Stars, these contingencies and plans were still as potent as the day he laid them, and became a constant point of problems for the slowly expanding realms and their gods. With the ancient empire and their Scriptorum lords, who themselves were of Elder God status, more on that in a bit, and the general disarray of the cluster as it was in those early days of star travel, the mortal gods were beset from many angles with all sorts of issues and problems facing their people and their charges. If any meaning can be derived from these plots and stratagems, it would be of naked revenge on Jam'mar and perhaps even the Nine Wings. However, with his death and the defeat of the Scriptorum, it seems Lastro's machinations have at last come to an end. Lastro's replacement, after his connection to the Dark Wa and the Scriptorum was discovered, was another of the Voids. This time, the monk Kagaya, who, among all the mortal gods, had the mind and might to hold such a position without tiring or growing bored. He continues to hold that position to this day, and is thought of giving counsel and advice to his former allies and compatriots, the mortal gods. Now that we have covered those elder gods that act in opposition to one another, let us look at the final of the elder gods, and the only one to actively have sired children of elder power and status. The elder god that without whom this very series would not exist. Of course, I speak of the Master Griffin himself, the elder god of history, scribe of ages and actions both small and large. Master Griffin stands apart from the rest of the elder gods, not only in lacking an opposite, but in his very function and place within the structure in which the Nine Wings has arranged godly matters. He is far more open to both mortals and gods than any of his colleagues, even engaging in procreation with them, as to aid in his greater duties to the Nine Wings. For it is said that every world or realm within the whole of the Nine Wings domains, each has a griffin recording its history. This is the reason that Master Griffin has sired so many children over the ages, so that each world would have an elder god of history, each with a smaller version of his own library in which to conduct their labors. However, the coming events and the steps taken by certain elder gods to contain the destructive effect of his summoning resulted in a divide that separated him from that of his children. Combined with the interference from Lastro, this saw many of these children abandon their passive neutrality and form the Scriptorum, becoming the elder gods of the ancient empire and all it controlled. Bearing a deep hate and spite to both Jam'mar and its god that abandoned them to the cold of space, the Scriptorum was wildly reckless and eager to wage war on them when they reappeared during the Age of Stars. Their power and status as elder gods was confusing and concerning for some time, until the revelation that they were griffins were made, after which the battles and the power plays of the gods became even more furiously intense, as there is little more reviled in the realms, and especially among their gods, as a traitor. By the end of the conflict, all but one of the Scriptorum was slain, with the final captured and allegedly returned to Master Griffin himself for whatever punishment the librarian had in store. Even as a faithful and true servant to the librarian, I cannot attest to much more about this fate of the final traitorous child of Griffin, except that a statue of an elven-looking man, constantly lined with frost and a surface of frozen time, is placed in one of the deepest sanctums of this place, standing in a darkened alcove, away from all light and warmth. It is the place the librarian will not go, and forbids all but his most trusted to visit, or to even know exists. The Scriptorum War, and direct conflict with the Elder Gods opposed fully to the realms and the Nine Wings, was a wake-up call to the entirety of the Divine of Jam'mar, from the meekest of demigods to the Elder Gods themselves. The fact that beyond the gulf surrounding the local cluster of Credelis, there will, without a doubt, be other cultures and other worlds, each potentially with their own gods and elder gods, has seen a solidification of purpose among the divine of the realms. While the elders remain for the most part aloof and disconnected with the goings-on of mortal day-to-day life, they are more attentive to the goings-on of the gods and what is happening at the edges of the realms. How this will affect or shape events to come is something that only time and Griffin's pen will come to reveal as it passes. However, this is where I will draw this briefest of looks into the Elder Gods to a close. I do hope you now have a better understanding of the Elder Gods, their nature, and their general place within the realms of Jam'mar. Perceptive patrons, regular visitors, and of course, new guests of the library, I thank you here at the end of Series 3 of Intro to the Realms for your time, your interest, and of course, your support of the Realms of Jam'mar, as well as Gryphon's Library. It has been an absolute honor to bring you these tales and bits of lore, and I look forward to continuing to do so in Series 4 of Intro to the Realms, as well as for well beyond. But for now, until you next return to the library for your next entry of Intro to the Realms, by the 9 and 4, be well, take care of yourselves and each other. If you'd like to contribute to the further exploration and explanation of the realms, please consider leaving a comment, a like, and sharing the video around. I read all the comments and make efforts to reply to each. Thank you for helping to grow the channel, and know I look forward to each and every one of your comments. Other methods of support can be found in the channel's description. Thank you for watching.